Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on campus. My name is Aubrey Reeves, and I'm the Executive Director of Culture Days. I'm pleased to act as host and moderator today. This is the second in our monthly webinar series running through the winter of 2018. We'll be announcing the next one very soon. You can stay abreast of all Culture Days news by subscribing to our newsletter or following us on Facebook and Twitter. I would just like to take a moment to thank the Department of Canadian Heritage, whose funding made the webinar series possible, as well as other free professional development resources. Before I introduce the guest speakers, I would like to go through a little bit of general housekeeping on the webinar platform. So this is the control panel that you should all be seeing. All our attendees today are muted. Only the presenters will be able to have microphone access. So if you do have questions, please type them into the question box that you see there, and we will be moderating those questions for the Q&A period. Today's presentation will also be recorded and will be provided within about a week. So today's presentation looks at a growing trend of Culture Days events taking place on campus or with the involvement of post-secondary institutions. And today we're excited to have 3 post-secondary institutions represented on the webinar, which includes Humber College, NASCAD, and Brock University. First up on our list of guest speakers was meant to be Susan Nagy from Lakeshore Arts, which collaborates with Humber every year, but unfortunately she is ill today. The good news is that the program manager at Lakeshore Arts, Kim Damon, is able to step in for today's presentation. So Kim is an artist, arts manager, and cultural advocate. She's worked in the arts and culture sector in the GTA for the past 15 years, is a graduate of OCAD, and is currently studying at Ryerson to obtain a nonprofit management certificate. She's also pursues her own practice with a printmaking group called Imprint Collective, and she's participated in Culture Days with that group, as well as Nuit Blanche, Cultural Hotspot, and spearheaded an inter-museum youth arts exchange program with First Story Toronto. So while I'm introducing our other speakers, I'm actually going to launch a poll for everybody, which is just asking a little bit about who's attending today, so we get a sense for our presenters of who we're speaking with. Okay, so moving on, our second presentation will be from Linda Hutchinson, who's the Associate Vice President of University Relations at NASCAD University in Halifax, Nova Scotia. NASCAD University, also known as the Nova Scotia College of Art and Design, is the oldest art school in Canada. It was founded in 1887, and the university has established itself internationally as a center of artistic innovation. Some of the many things in Linda's current portfolio includes fund development, communications, donor and alumni stewardship, and the advancement committee of the Board of Governors. Linda is a passionate advocate for the arts and arts education and was directly involved in the 2017 Culture Days programming that took place at NASCAD. All right, so I see we're about 83% of folks have voted on that poll. So I'm going to close that one and launch our next one. Okay, so finally we will hear from David Vivian, director of the Marilyn I. Walker School of Fine Art and Performing Arts at Brock University, and a faculty member of the Department of Dramatic Arts. He teaches theatrical design, production, and stagecraft. Previously, he was the director of the Center for Studies in Arts and Culture and the chair of the Department of Dramatic Arts. And he has held numerous responsibilities in university governance and municipal cultural policy development at the City of St. Catharines. The opening of the Marilyn Walker School in June of 2015 followed closely by the opening of the adjacent First Ontario Performing Arts Centre of the City of St. Catharines, providing an ideal opportunity for programming Culture Days activities at the university's new downtown campus. Okay, so thank you everyone for voting in those polls. I'm going to share the results of the first one so everyone can get a sense of who is here with us today. And it's overwhelmingly 70% are representatives of arts and cultural organization, but we do have 10% of our attendees coming from a college or university, as well as 10% are individual artists. So that's a nice mix. Okay, and second up, we also actually have a majority who are returning activity organizers with 36%, but that's matched actually with new activity organizers. And then the next one down at 27% are returning community organizers. So fairly even split there. That's very interesting. Okay. So now, so thank you everyone for filling in the polls because it's very helpful for our presenters. So I'm going to turn the mic over now to Kim, who will begin the presentation from Lakeshore Art. Okay, so Kim, we can see your slides.
Excellent.
And
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so happy to be here, and thank you, Aubrey, for inviting us, both Susan and I, on behalf of Lakeshore Arts, to speak today. So as Aubrey mentioned, Lakeshore Arts has worked in partnership with Humber College for a number of years now, and it's been a growing, ongoing partnership. And today I really wanted to talk about the shared successes that we've had, some of the growing pains, as well as the benefits that we've seen to our community, to the college, and to the arts sector in Toronto. So first, at Lakeshore Arts, who are we? Well, we are a community arts organization that's located in South Etobicoke. We've grown from a grassroots to an award-winning community arts organization, and this year in 2018, we'll be celebrating our 25th anniversary. Our vision is to connect neighborhoods with the transformative power of arts activity, and we are so excited that the Culture Days mandate aligns with this vision, as we believe it helps to create accessible arts-engaged initiatives, both in Toronto, in Ontario, and across Canada. So we launched Culture Days in our community, in the South Etobicoke community, in 2012. And as a local community arts organization, we got to draw on our artist roster of activity facilitators. We reached out to our community stakeholders, and the largest one of that being Humber College, whose South Campus is just down the way from us on the lakeshore. And what this did was it helped create a partnership, and it allows us to create a more robust experience for Culture Days in our community. So when Susan started thinking about how Etobicoke Lakeshore's Culture Days could come to be, she really did see it as sort of the stars aligning. She knew that Humber College had embedded community outreach into their strategic plan, and that they were actively looking for ways to become engaged in the local surrounding community. That worked well for us because Lakeshore Arts was looking for a partner who could really help us leverage our limited resources as a smaller arts organization and impact more people and offer more activities. So Culture Days really did become the catalyst for that relationship. Another factor that contributed to the partnership success is the geography of the location that we're in. So we have 4 kilometers of streetscape that connect the Lakeshore community, with Lakeshore Arts on the more eastern end, Humber College sort of more central west. And what we do as part of Culture Days is center our activities around these, as well as a third main hub, which is located at the Assembly Hall, which is a City of Toronto-run cultural center, and is across the street from Humber College's Lakeshore campus. So each hub, part of the challenge in the Lakeshore is that we don't have a lot of large venues accessible to us in our community. So what we did was, when we were looking at the different hubs, it was important that each of these hubs consisted of an outdoor space. So for Lakeshore Arts, we run most of our programs out of Mimico Square, which is situated in Amos Waits Park, and right across the street from Lakeshore Arts' storefront gallery. We primarily take control of that hub, curate the activities offered there, and help work to combine them in a really cohesive way with the other hubs as part of the festival. Humber College and the Assembly Hall, which you saw on the previous slide's map, are two main venues that happen to be across the street from one another, and both have lots of outdoor green space with trees, grassy areas, shaded, sunshine. They're really welcoming and open to having larger activities situated there. So, what have we found that's been really important in building partnerships with post-secondary schools? Well, number one is community outreach. With the university and college's mandate, at least with Humber College, has been to include community building outside of the school. They wanted to be a player in the community's growth and revitalization, and that worked out perfectly for us. And Humber College itself on the Lakeshore campus has a dedicated events coordinator and community liaison position that we specifically work for as part of Culture Days. That makes it really easy to consolidate our communications with their faculty and work with the school as a whole. The second being the willing participants buy-in. The culture needs to understand that the benefits to them as participating in a Culture Days initiative. For them to be able to champion the goals of the event, the overall brand, each organization has to have a representative on our advisory team. So what we've done is we've created a committee and a team of people made up of community stakeholders, including our local BIAs, the Assembly Hall, which we mentioned is one of our hubs, as well as Lakeshore Arts and Humber College. Now we get together and use our ideas, talk about our challenges, and come to a consensus for our shared goals for the festival each year. Another really important part of the partnership is clarity. Everyone is coming to the table with a different goal and a different agenda, so it's really paramount that if you are working in partnership, you establish common goals and shared values. In our case, our goal was creating hands-on artistic experiences that showcased a variety of art forms and provided a platform for the neighborhood and the college's artists to shine. It's an essential part of our working relationship that we develop a MOU or a Memorandum of Understanding between Humber College and Lakeshore Arts. Now, this document clearly outlines our roles, our responsibilities, our approval processes, and who is the decision makers for different aspects of the festival, as well as outlines the branding for all three organizations and how we are all each recognized. The last being balance. We really do want to utilize everyone's strengths, which means in the situation of large institution like Humber College and a smaller organization like Lakeshore Arts, it doesn't necessarily translate to a 50-50 split. So both organizations contribute in different ways. We're going to break down 6 of those key contributions for you. One being staff resources. For Humber College, the principal of the Lakeshore campus sits on our advisory planning group. And is key in making the partnership work and making the decisions. They have access to their broad network across the campuses and can really utilize the power of that the college can bring. Their events coordinator plays a key role in helping with the logistics, the deliverables, and really the sort of day-to-day happenings. And the college has actually been really instrumental in helping create a festival administrator position. Now, they're capitalizing on their events management program and using a graduate of that program to intern and work with us in executing the festival every year. At Lakeshore Arts, we share the responsibility of mentoring this events management intern and administrator. We focus on building the relationships with our artists, creating those critical paths that are involved in getting the event done, and making sure that we have equal representation of all the organizations and partners involved. We have a dedicated community programs coordinator on staff who really focuses on our behalf to program the activities and the delivery. Another big one is venue space. So Humber has great large outdoor spaces on their campus. They have lecture halls, they have workshops and classroom spaces. and they're used for their own programming, but are also open to hosting local artists and organizations who might not have other locations to also run their activities out of open space there. So that way, especially what we're able to do is capture a larger crowd in the spaces that they're able to provide us with. We have a small storefront, but as I mentioned, we have been able to utilize Mimico Square in the local park, and we work with the BIA to cover all of our park permits for that. In marketing, that is a big contribution for Humber College because they have an entire marketing department, whereas we have a part-time marketing coordinator. So they're able to spend more money on advertising. They have a video department, they have a camera drone, they have their own newspaper, website, social media, videos, blogs, radio stations, I could go on. And so what that does is, while we can utilize that to help promote Culture Days, the public perception sometimes gets weighted in their favor, and sometimes the community is distracted and believes that Humber College is, running the event solely on their own. So currently we're working to create a balance that respects the college's brand and acknowledges them for all of what they're able to contribute, but also really highlights the other partners in a meaningful way, where the dialogue is more about open communication and the partnership involved. It's essential that we build in time, especially for this, because them being such a large institution, it takes a lot longer to sort of navigate the bureaucracy of things like marketing and finance departments. So that's also something to take into account for their process. Next is funding. Thankfully, the principal of Lakeshore Campus has come to realize the value and the benefits of the festival, the Culture Days Festival, to the college and to its students, and has included Culture Days in their annual budget. Thankfully, the college also has a community partnership fund, and the projects funded through this initiative provide the opportunity for academic schools and administrative departments to further cultivate their relationships with partners and stakeholders, which helps bring the community to Humber and Humber into the community, again, reinforcing how it supports their strategic plan. Thankfully, these funds help to pay for some of the printing of our festival schedule, having access to a shuttle bus that gets festival participants from one hub to another, helps with signage and street banners, equipment rentals, tables, chairs, tents, anything that we could need to help ensure that the festival runs smoothly. The challenge is that the funding must be submitted by the Humber faculty, and therefore it's important to have it all listed in writing, as it does really take it out of Lakeshore Arts' hands and our control. The fifth contribution, and that's a large one that we really wanted to highlight, is the faculty of Humber College. As you can see, all of the ones listed, the different departments that Humber uses. We've got the Art Commons, which has a live lab that provides students with a creative space to explore new techniques. Their Fashion Arts and Business School, their new Lakeshore Grounds Interpretive Center, their Creative and Performing Arts schools, which includes music, puppetry, creative writing, and a lot of digital media, as well as their Aboriginal Resource Center, which we've been very happy to have as part of our Culture Days Festival for multiple years. As you can see now, each department, so we connect with each department, and they're solicited for program ideas, students that would be interested in taking part, and anyone that would like to facilitate a Culture Days activity. So these are photos of the Aboriginal Center providing their annual community celebration, which really has become a highlight of our Culture Days weekend every year. One of the challenges is that in working with these different departments is that everyone's department wants to be able to participate because it's amazing public outreach, but we've really found that their overzealous nature at times, that it creates an interest where not all the programs or activities suggested are arts or creative based. So they really do push the boundaries of sort of what arts and culture could be. which does open a dialogue for our evaluation process, figuring out what is art, what is culture. It's also caused us to discuss the quality of our programming versus the quantity, and how we are choosing to curate our activities every year. So throughout this process, we've really nailed down that we want to incorporate interactive activities that are unique, have innovation, and use those in our lexicon as criteria for our program development each year. And lastly, but most importantly, the sixth contribution that the college provides is direct access to their student body. The students have come to play a key role in the delivery of the success of the festival each year. Last year in 2017, 74 students from Humber College contributed over 1,000 hours of volunteer time. Humber has a really large enrollment of international students, and Culture Days really does allow them to become immersed in the community and provides an immediate connection to their new home in Canada and offers them an opportunity to contribute in a meaningful way. As a large number of Humber's creative programs reside in the Lakeshore campus, students are eager to make connections to local professional artists by volunteering to support their workshops, and students get direct access to these artists for networking and mentorship opportunities. As part of our values, it's imperative that we provide meaningful experiences for the participants, and the students assist and benefit in a number of ways. They're trained to deliver some of the less challenging activities and have an active role in the program implementation. And Lakeshore Arts over the past number of years has built relationships with students that we were introduced to at Culture Days, and these young emerging artists have been incorporated into our regular artist roster, offering them paid employment to teach art courses and workshops throughout the rest of the year. They are trained to provide customer service, whether through guides on our shuttle bus, information stations, or wayfinding. And the student intern who's hired for the festival, who acts as an administrator. Their responsibilities can be everything from sponsorship and marketing to programming, and really working with the Humber faculty over the workshop and events. This gains them experience, employment, networks, and really great references on our part for everything that they're able to do for us every year. The students are actually able to help us capture data as well through helping conduct surveys for both Culture Days and Etobicoke Lakeshore and Lakeshore Arts. This direct feedback really helps with community impact and future planning. They assist with house-to-house program delivery and the festival launch every year. So I think I've gone a couple minutes over, but in closing, I just wanted to say that by being able to partner with Humber College, we've been able to deliver a festival that exceeds what we would have been able to achieve independently. Our programming has grown from 21 programs over 2 days to 36 programs over 3 days, and the number of participants has grown from 1,700 to 4,500 in the last 6 years. We've had growing pains, but each year, through inputs from the artists, the partners, and the public, the festival's been able to evolve, and what this grassroots initiative once was is now has an established framework with invested team players. We all agree that Culture Days benefits everyone, the business, our artists, our schools, the residents, and a spark that we hope will be a long-lasting love for the arts. Thank you so much for listening.
Oh, thank you, Kim. That was really inspiring to hear how you've cultivated the program over the past 6 years. There's time for 1 or 2 questions. Folks can type that into their question box. There already is one waiting for us. You mentioned that you mostly focus on outdoor events. So this person is wondering how you plan for weather contingencies.
So that's been a challenging issue that we've sort of navigated each year. 2 years ago, we actually had quite a heavy rain and windstorm over the Culture Days weekend, which did end up with us having to cancel a number of activities and relocate others, which did see a major drop in attendance. But due to the limited venues in our neighborhood and our community, there's not a lot else we can do other than build in that contingency and rain plan.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine the outdoor venues help a lot with visibility too.
Definitely. The number of people through our community surveys that have said that they've just been walking by, or they heard music, or they saw flags, and then became repeat attendees in future years has been really great for our attendance.
Okay, so we have another question. You mentioned very briefly the bus, and you had a picture of it there. This person is wondering how it was organized and what tips you might have for organizing a similar kind of transport.
So some of the issues that we have found with having the shuttle bus are, number one, that it's really great for people who struggle with transportation or are bringing large families and want to do that in a way that makes sense. We found that having a really rigid and well-posted schedule is very important, while allowing for some flexibility in traffic. Having well-established pickup and drop-off hubs that don't interfere with traffic are very, very important. And then having volunteers stationed at each pickup and drop-off point to help with wayfinding and information is really key, because it's confusing for some people to understand that we are providing the shuttle bus for free and what that all entails. We're lucky that through Humber College, and their community programs are able to provide the cost to cover the bus for our main activity day for us.
Great, thanks. Since you did go over time, I think I'm going to cap it there for questions. And if we have time, we'll return to them at the end. I'm going to switch the presenter over to Linda with NASCAD, who we're going from a long-running program to the first year of NASCAD's involvement. Okay, there, Linda. Sorry, you were muted we can hear you now. You were muted for a second.
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Aubrey, and thank you everybody for joining in on the webinar. I hope it's helpful for you. I know I learned a lot just listening to Kim there. Kind of wonderful, all the facilities that they have available to them. Anyway, NASCAD University, this was our first time that we participated in Culture Days, and we're a small, mighty organization, much like our founder, Anna Leonowens, who you might remember as the heroine of The King and I. What we did this year is we used the Artist for a Day model, which we've done for 6 years in the past. We began that on our 125th anniversary. And Artist for a Day is a very successful program that opens the doors of the Port campus to the community. And I know we don't have the numbers that Humber might have, but certainly it's a crowd here for Halifax. So we open the doors, we have studio tours, demonstrations, art book sales. So what we decided to do this year was, in terms of Culture Days, we named it Inside Out. So the campus doors were open, demonstrations were held, and we also used our students in, we have an alumni artist in residency program in Lunenburg and New Glasgow. So we had our students participate there as well. Our kickoff for Culture Days was an exhibition hosted by Mario Doucette, who's an Acadian artist. He was kind enough to visit and to provide the first public lecture series of that weekend. Mario's work is always interesting and likes to re-examine our colonial past, especially from the viewpoint of an Acadian artist. We also worked with our gallery staff to invite other galleries to participate, and Halifax Inc., which is a consortium of Dalhousie, St. Mary's, Mount St. Vincent, and NASCAD, held a guerrilla book, catalog, and ephemera sale on Saturday at the Art Bar and Special Projects. The Art Bar and Special Projects is not actually a real bar, but it does have a bar. It's not open regularly, but it serves as a performative space or a special event hosting space. So we turned NASCAD inside out, and we had the studio tours and demonstrations. Here we see Professor Mark Bowie sharing the printmaking studios, and the jewelry studio students were also on hand for demonstrations. Very hands-on. Visitors could explore some of the materials, engage in some of the drawing sessions. That was down at the port, actually. We had our weaving studios open. The looms were colorfully used, and as you see, all ages love to draw. The fashion studios were open. We had displays from our professor, Gary Markle, who works on a worn well adaptive clothing line, especially designed for people with mobility challenges. And we had samples of pattern making also demonstrated. Design professor Christopher Kaltbach was on hand to describe his insectarium research project, and Professor Sandra Alfoldi, craft history, delighted the audience with an engaging and funny lecture on folk art in Nova Scotia. The Port campus, which is a 10-minute walk from here, the main campus, hosted the open drawing sessions and were hives of charcoal dust and interesting figures. So I mentioned the Fountain campus, which is actually where I'm based. It's a National Historic Site and is a block of 19th century former shop fronts, housing design, jewelry, printmaking, painting, textiles, fashion, the Leonowens Gallery, and the library. Where the Port campus is more industrial and intensive, it's about a 15-minute walk, and it's what we call the maker space. It houses industrial disciplines like the metal shop, wood shop, ceramics, plastics, sculpture, and the foundation studios. The Treaty Space is a new initiative launched in concert with our 130th and Culture Days. NASCAD student Glenn Knockwood worked on this project and performed a smudging ceremony with his grandfather, being Wild Elder Douglas Knockwood. Visiting Professor Heidi Boecker was on hand for a public lecture on treaties, understanding Canada as a negotiated place. The Treaty Gallery students research responses to treaty on university campuses. Luke, Cynthia, Carrie, Brandon, and Glenn are standing in front of the declaration. Seated on the right are Douglas and Glenn Knockwood with gallery director Melanie Colosimo. You see a beaded artwork that was produced, and it actually is a readable QWERTY link. The Treaty Space Gallery will continue NASCAD's commitment towards Indigenous knowledge mobilization, and we're hoping for ongoing support of Indigenous contemporary art. The spirit of the Leonowens Gallery, in which the work of leading artists is shown along NASCAD students, is a primary mandate of the college. This new space will foster, merging Indigenous community-based knowledge and productive academic and artistic research. The Totally Wicked Music Festival was altogether a different thing. It happened on the Friday night at the Art Bar and Special Projects. It was sponsored by the Alumni Association. NASCAD's quite proud of its many musical alumni. Even Mick Jagger went to art school. Mayor Mike Savage was pleased to proclaim October 3rd as NASCAD University Cultural Leader Day in recognition of NASCAD's work with Culture Days, the Treaty Education Space, new Indigenous Studies programming, and the upcoming Responsive Light Show that was co-hosted with Dalhousie and partners in Cologne, Germany. We at NASCAD have a confluence of art, design, and craft making facilities, but we like to reach outside of what we normally do, and so can you. The options for every school to do and make cultural activities are boundless. Use your drama, music, history, language faculties to engage your community. The most important thing was really for us was to get faculty buy-in. We found that key to success. And promoting the event early and often. We have a tiny, tiny marketing budget, so we worked really hard on that. Seeking community partners was helpful. Especially in terms of the rural areas in Glasgow and Lunenburg. Involving students and alumni is definitely key. And try to think of something new and engage your neighbors. We have a series of shop fronts here, and it's really important to get them involved. They really like to know what's going on. And invite the media, invite politicians, and invite parents, and have fun. Thank you very much. Any questions, don't hesitate to contact me.
Thank you very much, Linda. We do have one question already. It says, looks like you brought in a diverse audience engaging in highly specialized art making. What steps did you take in your outreach and marketing to communicate that Inside Out is a space for everyone?
Well, it's a similar approach that we take to Artists for a Day. I mean, we take out newspaper ads, get a lot of stuff out on Facebook, and try to get stories out there and show images of all people being engaged, young, old, from various communities, various groups. So it's really, I think, on how you display images to engage people, to make them feel like coming. They need to see themselves.
Mm-hmm. Great, thanks. And you mentioned your satellite locations at Lunenburg and Glasgow, and then you also have the 2 campuses in Halifax. This person's question is getting at those multiple locations, and they're wondering, was there one thing that really tied everything together? And did you think that people would actually travel from one location to another?
That was definitely a challenge. I mean, nobody was going to be traveling from Lunenburg to New Glasgow and Halifax. That's just a bit too far. But there was a progression of folks from the Granville campus down to the Fountain campus down to the Port campus. The academy was much quieter. We just really couldn't spread ourselves that thin because we actually have 3 campuses.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Any further questions? We'll bump to the end, but thank you so much, Linda.
Welcome. Thank you.
We'll move on to David now. Okay, so, and I just had to unmute David. There you go. David?
Thank you. I'm just coming online here. Thank you very much, Aubrey, for the invitation. And thank you, Kim and Linda, for your excellent presentations. I'm reminded how important it is to take good photographs and have documentation of our programming in the moment. I'm going to talk briefly about Culture Days at the Marilyn I. Walker School. We are located in St. Catharines, Ontario. We're in the Niagara Peninsula. We're about 150,000 strong in St. Catharines. We opened our new facility in June of 2015, followed closely by the opening of the adjacent First Ontario Performing Arts Centre of the City of St. Catharines, which this provided an ideal opportunity to begin programming Culture Days activities at the university's new downtown campus. In the photograph, you can see the city skyline with buildings lined along the main street, St. Paul, and situated behind our school. And to the right in that photograph is the First Ontario Performing Arts Centre. Our new location provides an accessible site for downtown community programming, and we have participated in Culture Days in 2016 and 2017. The other side of the school, the area we call the backyard, is situated between the 2 facilities. For us, Culture Days is primarily a doors open type event, a lifting of the veil to help demystify what we do and how we do it. The First Ontario Performing Arts Centre and the University Recruitment Officer are our close collaborators to deliver programming and animation. Rodman Hall Arts Centre, the university's art gallery, situated within walking distance on the far west side of 12 Mile Creek, also participated in Culture Days. Whereas Rodman Hall will have an exhibition program and studio-type hands-on programming in place, for those of us working in a university context, the challenge is to devise a unique program that is distinct but complementary to existing course schedules and learning outcomes, also underway during the 3 days of Culture Days. Can I take a minute to talk some more about one of our biggest challenges with Culture Days? Our public programming is rich with engagement opportunities at a time of year when faculty, staff, and students are completing the first third of the fall session. We are shy to offer additional public programming activities. We've also made a big push to invite the community into our new facility since it opened officially in September 2015. The local public has had many opportunities to visit the school. One might say we have passed the saturation point. Programming innovation and collaborative partnerships for Culture Days are key. September is a very busy month for us with a major 3-day festival the first weekend of September, the Celebration of Nations. Contact by Ontario Presents will be with us this September. We have the Niagara Grape and Wine Festival running for 2 weeks. We have our own University Brock Homecoming, which also happens at our location. And we have the Ontario Universities Fair, OUF, in Toronto, among other events and programming. I mention OUF in Toronto because at Brock University, the faculty and staff are bused into Toronto for this 3-day event at the Metro Convention Centre. On any day of that weekend, at least half of my faculty are not in St. Catharines, or they are unavailable to support programming. Our best students are also with us in Toronto. Thus, volunteer time is a premium, and planning ahead is as important as always. That said, the concept of a doors open visit with guided or self-serve experiences is very important to us. So what have we done? In our first and second year, we coordinated programming schedules with the adjacent First Ontario Performing Arts Centre. At the MIWSFPA, in the first year, we were open and programmed for the 3 days. We had regular tours running hourly that coordinated with tours offered at the Performing Arts Centre. In the second year, we only programmed for the Saturday. I'll take a brief pause here to say that that is a screenshot on the right of your screen, which you can see the active web page by clicking through the URL address also seen on the page. We also offered self-guided tour with an annotated map. Guests were greeted at a welcome table, directed to places of interest, offered maps and information handouts, and could ask questions of our trained student ambassadors. There was sufficient interest, a guide would take a group on an unscheduled tour. This tour would involve all of our open rehearsal studios, printmaking, photography lab, painting studio, drawing studio, scene shop, costume wardrobe, all of the regular features of an art school. In both years, we featured a site-specific percussion performance situated in the space between the two buildings. The buildings in site have created unique acoustic qualities that our performer and percussion instructor, Devin Fernelli, explored with his instruments and encouraged the public to participate in. The mascot is University's Boomer the Badger. We dress him up in studio painting smocks or an alternative arts and culture themed costume for university public engagement events, such as for the annual In the Soil Festival that happens every year in late April. We also directed our guests to the Visual Arts Gallery at the MIW, where student monitors would introduce them to the exhibition on offer. I'm also showing here a screenshot to the 2017 web posting about the event. You can read that directly on the web using the URL address on your screen. In 2017, this was a very special exhibit that is part of our community's response to the TRC, the important and necessary work of indigenization in our cultural sector, and the task of responsibly celebrating the Canada 150 event. Many of you will know, probably, that across university communities, this was a contested event. The exhibit was opened on the occasion of the Celebration of Nations, and we specifically held the exhibit through until after the Culture Days weekend. To give you some background information, the Celebration of Nations is part of a long-term vision of the First Ontario Performing Arts Centre, Kakakalanix, and the City of St. Catharines to build on the two-row wampum that promotes all nations walking together in parallel with respect, compassion, and understanding to cultivate an inclusive community for our shared future. Moving back to the university, in our first year of participation, we also programmed what we call a research poster display. Faculty of Humanities graduate students who are undertaking research in cultural themed material, be it archaeology, literature, philosophy, languages, dramatic arts, etc., were invited to submit their posters for display around the Marilyn L. Walker School. The researchers were available to the public to answer any questions about their presentations. For many public audiences, however, this was probably above their interest and patience level, and we didn't repeat this in our second year. It was nevertheless a good learning experience for the young scholars. In my estimation, the success of the program opportunity relies on the effective use of the graphic branding across the local participants and the reporting of the program to our websites and social media channels. It's one of the few times when community members see the various organizations, presenters, and producers promote themselves under a common, unifying banner of arts and culture for the community. In St. Catharines, the preparation of a map printed on cardstock became a very useful tool. I've included here scans of the 2016 and 2017 maps produced by the City of St. Catharines. This is also a useful tool when talking to the university community on the main campus, which is situated 15 minutes away atop the Niagara Escarpment. reminding our students that we are part of a community of production and reception that extends beyond the somewhat isolated main campus location. In the future, I would like to position Culture Days programming as part of the student exploration of the new city of residence. For 2018, we look forward to developing local collaborations and to host community and partner organizations in our facilities. We will work with the Cultural Services Office of the city, the local Culture Days representative, as well as the First Ontario Performing Arts Centre to offer hosting opportunities at our school for programming such as poetry slams, improv, company performances, literature salons, active painting, or intimate small-scale concerts, all created and performed by external organizations. But because of the nature of St. Catharines, many of these are populated by students, alumni, faculty, and staff of the university. Thanks for taking the time to join the webinar, and I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, David. We do have a couple questions already waiting for you.
Thank you.
The first one is, did the vacuum of your top students being away at the event in Toronto create an opportunity for new leaders to emerge? And how did this constraint allow for innovation?
It's a real challenge. We have so much programming happening in September, and we are actively engaged in the community. For example, with the Grape and Wine Festival running right through those 2 weekends. We really have to engineer new student volunteers and recruits to be involved. Let's also remember too that our classes are underway, and I will have at least 2 theater productions in rehearsal during the days of the weekend, and possibly some music ensemble rehearsals, and we will have students painting and drawing up in their studios because we're in session. But you know, they too are part of our ambassadorial team, and that's really the nub of the matter. That's why we're here. So I think looking forward to next year, we are going to try to develop some relationships with the student offices up on main campus so that we bring some more students on board. And as you suggest, and as we saw in the presentation, for example, with Humber College, the importance also of involving new international student populations with this St. Catharines experience in downtown St. Catharines.
Mm-hmm. Great. We have a couple questions for the whole group, but first there's one more for you specifically, David. You mentioned the map and the promotions that the municipality of St. Catharines produced, and that was quite important for your event. Can you talk a little bit about that relationship between the university and the municipality?
Right. We're a tightly knit community, hugely invested in each other's success. And I think that something that has really catalyzed our productive relationship was the work that ultimately led to the opening of the Performing Arts School and the Performing Arts Center, Fine and Performing Arts School, because it also includes the programs in visual arts. In the downtown core, and we have all participated, for example, in a ground level up community consultation process that delivered the program and the designs for the Performing Arts Center, and to a different degree at the university. So also because I, at one point personally, as have some of my faculties, been a membership of the City Culture Committee, now Arts and Culture Committee, and I was chair of that committee. Because we have a municipal cultural funding program, which has grown from, remember we are a small city, but the time that I was on that committee, I think we were contributing about $150,000 a year through a peer-reviewed grant application process to local artists, and that's grown to shy of $400,000 now. The relationships and the connections, the networks, and the understanding that we have strong mutual interest in our success for this types of activity has laid down the foundation. When our current person responsible for Culture Days, Ashley, for example, contacts me, as does Stephanie at the Performing Arts Center, we're all quickly on the phone planning things. And probably fair to say it was the big project. As we moved downtown, part of the carefully researched downtown revitalization plan, the creative culture master plan, for example, that has meant that we've got such a busy community-based program here in the fall, and makes things like producing maps and promoting each other's materials really just an easy second thought. It's what we do naturally.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to first up launch a poll while we have some questions for the group as a whole. The first one, just I want to know from everybody here what size community you hail from. And so while that poll is running, also I'm going to unmute Kim and Linda because we have questions for the whole group. The first one came in after the first presentation, so it's mostly directed to Kim, but I think could be answered by anyone. How do you keep things fresh when the same departments or groups want to take part each year? So this person is wondering, this is something smaller communities sometimes struggle with, that the quality of programming is great, but often repetitive, and so it's leading to less attendance year after year.
So this is Kim again. I'll answer that from our perspective. We really do stress, especially in the last couple of years, the innovation of our activities and try to vary what's on offer each year as much as possible while still retaining the things that are very popular, putting a different spin on things. So as an example, for our dance activities, the last couple of years we've done breakdancing with youth, and this year we decided to do a interactive thriller dance workshop, as it was the month before Halloween. And so it's still a dance component, but we brought a new spin on it, and we got a much bigger turnout than we have in previous years. So this is something that that advisory committee that we had talked about having before with all of the stakeholders really focuses on the curation of the activities to try to keep them as relevant as possible, and using the minds and the experience of the people around the table to try and advance the ideas to make them the best that they can be. So sometimes a faculty will come to us with 2 or 3 different ideas, and we'll be able to zero in on the ones we think will fit the best and offer suggestions as to how they could push it maybe a little bit further.
Great. David, do you have a take on this question?
How to keep it fresh?
Yeah.
I think maybe we are fortunate in that we have a programming season in place, and I will have distributed our annual program end of August, top of September, so that I know that I already have a set of events underway, which just by their nature of change will give us opportunity to highlight different aspects of being, making, and arts and culture. That's maybe not very useful when you're not attached to a university or college program that is generating this as part of your undergraduate or graduate learning experience. I think certainly St. Catharines, we go through cycles of new innovative projects too, and from a native side, you might say these could become fads. Certainly the challenge here is to build sustainable capacity gently. And so we have themes in our city programming, and have they become stale? I don't think so. If anything, I found that our population has become very loyal and expecting to see the same events happen year after year. So for example, in the Soil Festival that happens in late April, early May, this is into its 10th year now, and this is largely grown by graduates, alumni of our program, but also local community artists, and we bring in both national and international artists. There is a strong desire to see every year a quality experience that's going to move people, make them feel secure and safe and proud and curious about who they are and where they are living. So to the contrary of the question, we've had some good success with actually repeating the programming on a year-to-year basis.
Great. Okay, well, that's 2 interesting takes on it. I'm going to launch the next poll while we get our next question for the whole group, which is, Any tips on how to coordinate a university during the summer when many faculty are not in the office? So because Culture Days is at the end of September, a lot of the organization does have to happen in the months before that, which of course is the summer. And when is the best time to start planning?
It's Linda here. I would say that it's time to plan now.
So as soon as possible.
I would agree with Linda. We're already locking down dates across September, October, and up through the holiday period, and I'm starting to get anxious because we're going to be so busy. I don't really have too many useful tips. I'm sorry. I mean, I think electronic communications, Skype type calls, for example, are going to happen. My own location is busy with faculty working here in the studios across the spring and summer. I'm also running courses. And I also got a very busy program of summer camp type activity for kids up to youth. So I'm not certain too many of us are actually getting a break. And I'm glad. I'm glad to have them near so I can stop them in the hall and continue to advance planning.
Great. Kim, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'll say with our work with Humber College, every year we debrief with our team and take note of how the timeline worked out. And over the last couple of years, we've refined it. So we actually put out our posting for our festival administrator in February. We hire them because they are graduating students. They start with us usually in end of April, early May. And that's usually when we have started the relationships with the faculty and usually try to get our at least rough structure for which activities we'd like to see in the fall in place by May. That'll give us a chance to get a head start on some of the promotional material. And one of the main jobs of our festival administrator throughout those summer months, May through August, is mainly outreach and logistics. So that when we get back in September, usually the first couple of weeks of September, you know, with Frosh and everything are always so busy, that we're able to hit the ground running to get our volunteer teams in place and finish our last bit of marketing so that the festival pans out well every year.
Oh, that's a really good detailed timeline. Thanks, Kim. Okay, so I'm closing up this final poll. One last question for everybody. What do you have planned for 2018? Anything new and inspiring?
If I could begin and also follow up with Kim's helpful timeline, I send out, in terms of the information collection, what's possible, for example, to populate the 3 days of Culture Days. I developed a template about 2 years ago, which I send out to make it as easy as possible for people to share their developing information with me. And my timeline for a collection on this will probably be mid-July. I'm probably putting that to bed and getting ready for print and web commitments. So to answer the specific question, I will know about some main stage, for example, theater productions that will be in development where there might be an open rehearsal the public could attend. I'll know what gallery exhibit will be available and whether I can reach out to participating artists or curators to be available to speak to the public. But I won't know until probably late spring, midsummer about anything that's new and innovative that's going to market participation next year.
Thanks. Kim or Linda, do you have any plans already starting to place for 2018?
What we've been considering this year is to combine Culture Days weekend with a portfolio review process, which usually happens in October, to make it a bigger and better event for potential students to visit NASCAD as well.
That's a great idea.
And for Lakeshore Arts and Humber, we're really looking at refining what's worked well in the past. So we do sort of a launch party on the Friday night. Saturday during the day is all of our messy, hands-on, fun, family-friendly activities all day long. And then on the Sunday, we're really looking to have a bit more of a relaxed vibe, doing some plein air painting, working with some of the local community groups. So a much more relaxed day of arts and culture.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your really insightful presentations. I think everyone found it fascinating from the level of questions and so on. I know I did. And thank you to everyone for submitting those great questions. I'm just going, I am showing the poll results right now about the top goal for on-campus Culture Days programming. A pretty even split there between to engage the surrounding campus, surrounding community, and to make the campus more fun, inclusive, and welcoming for all. And I think we saw both of those things really strongly represented in today's presentation. We hope that you found these presentations very insightful. Please mark your calendars for the upcoming Culture Days at the end of September. Recording of this presentation will be available in about a week. There's been several questions asking if the actual slides will become available and if that's all right with the presenters. Since there was active links in some of them, we will make those available. A short, extremely short survey will launch at the end of this webinar. Please take a moment to fill it in because it does help us improve our future webinars. And on that note, please sign up for our newsletter or follow us on Facebook and Twitter to find out about announcements of upcoming webinars, as well as launch of new resources and other items. So thank you everybody for a great webinar and have a great afternoon.